idcwoodcraft.com. Hello, my CNC brother or sister. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft. Welcome to this video where we are going to do some teaching to you about the Vectric software. And specifically, I'm going to teach you several different tools in the Vectric software as we build up a sign. A fairly simple sign, but a cool sign. You're going to learn about text, how to space the letters in the text and the words properly. You're going to learn how to put them on an arc over and under the project. You're going to learn a brand new tool in the Vectric software that's been introduced in version 11.5. It's available in Cut2d, the Vcarve, and Aspire series. So don't worry, if you've got 11.5 or more, then you have this feature. It's called the Freehand feature. But we'll get to that one a little bit later. I'm going to teach you a bunch of tips and tricks throughout this video as we move along in this sign design. So be sure to sit back, enjoy the ride, and if there's something that really catches your attention, I would love for you to leave a comment down below, or specifically, if I missed something, I would love to know. I try to capture everything for you. So without further ado, let's just dive right on in, start working on this, get you up to speed on a couple of things in the Vectric software, and teach you all these little tips and tricks at the same time. So let's rock this out. All right, we are in the Vectric software, and we're specifically in Vcarve Pro version 11.5. So I'm going to be showing you a couple of tools in the software. One is how to manipulate your text a little bit to get the lettering spaced correctly, and we'll put the words on an arc. And I'm also going to show you a new feature in the Vectric version 11.5. So for the text variation, you don't have to have 11.5. You can have you can go back quite a few versions. However, for the second part, you do need 11.5, and that is the freehand drawing feature that Vectric has added to the 11.5 version. So with that, we're going to dive in with the text features and what have you, and teach you some tips and tricks. So we've created a base project here that is 24 inches by 24 inches, and we're going to be making a project that looks quite similar to this right here, the old red barn where we play. So I'm going to say okay, and the project is now started. Now the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to start working on the text and get it positioned in there. We're going to do some spacing on it and what have you. So the first thing you want to do to get your text in here is actually start typing your text. So there's several text functions here under the create vectors, and you have two texts. We're going to work with the first one. So we're going to hit text, the T without the box around it, and then when we look down on the screen, we're going to see that this little thing showed up there. That's where the text is going to start at. Now, little tips, you notice that my screen is coming in and out. How am I doing that? I am literally rolling the scroll wheel on my mouse. So this is called panning. You're panning in, panning out. If you don't have a mouse, then by all means get one. The software is not built to try to work with your finger pad. It's built to use a mouse. And this is the mouse that I use. It's a Logitech mouse. I like it. It's simple, what have you. I'll put a link down below in the description where I get it off of Amazon. I talk about this quite a bit in the videos when I'm teaching you how to design. I've seen many CNC creators, new people, and often people that are in my age bracket, they just never got to using a mouse. And the problem with that is you are working really hard. Design software is built to be using this, and you will find your design life so much easier with a mouse. When you don't have a mouse, you're like grabbing that scroll bar on the side to move your project up and down, and that scroll bar on the bottom. You don't need it with this. One hold on that button and you move your mouse around and everything moves around with you. You roll the mouse wheel and the picture zooms in and out for you. Among many other things. The mouse design software is built for this. If you are not a user of a mouse and you're trying to do design work, please get a mouse. You will be grateful that you did it. I put a link for this one down in the description of this video down below. Go down there and get your mouse, please. Your life will be so much easier. So we are now in the text function. You can see it says it right up in the upper corner. It says create text, and we have the little area where it's going to start at. Now, you notice that there's a little dot in the middle of this box at the bottom. And what that means is that the text is going to be center justified. Now what that means is as we start to type, it's going to pin this as the center location, and the text will spread out left and right as we go. Now the way you know that is over in the text area, it says text alignment, and there are 3 buttons. There's left, center, and right. So what I'm going to do is just click the left justify, and you notice now that the little green node, that's what it's called, is a node, is to the left. That means that the text is going to start typing off to the right. We'll just type something in, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see the text is going off to the right. Now if I just backspace and I hit the right justify, now the little node is on the right side of the box, and all the text is going to move to the left as we type. So let's just click that. Oh, you have to click inside this box to activate that, and there we go. You can see everything's going off to the left. So everything is based on the right, so it'll shift over to the left as you go along. We're going to backspace to get rid of that, and we're going to shift to center justified, and then we will click into that text box again and type, and you can see it's splitting right down the middle as it moves along. So now we're set up. Okay, so let's talk about text and getting your letters spaced right, because this is something you're going to run into, and I want to help you solve this problem. So we're going to create this sign, the old red barn. I'll show it to you again. The old red barn where we play, and then we got this freehand drawing of the barn, and you notice the old red barn is the text is on an arc, and we have this the shape of the sign is kind of a rounded sign. It's kind of gentle shape. So let's start with the text itself. So I'm going to simply going to type in to the text box up here, and I'm going to capitalize everything. So I'm going to hit my caps lock button, and I'm going to say the old red barn, and then we're going to hit enter. I'm going to just pan out for a minute because I want to see the whole sentence. So what I did is just hover my mouse over here. I didn't touch anything, just hovered over it and then moved the scroll wheel. Okay, and now we're up here. We're going back to the text box, and I'm going to hit enter. So we start the next line, and then I'll type where we play. Let's mess around with this a little bit. I'm going to type in it's where we play. Okay, the reason I'm doing that is because I want to show you how we can adjust our words. Like I want to take out the word it's later on. Now, if you notice right now, all the text is in pretty good shape with the exception of the little area right here where the tail, the R, and the E, they're really close together. And same with the A and the R, and notice here that the N and the R are actually touching. And same with the A and the L are actually crossing over. And that's going to create a problem on your carve. There's not going to be that break point. But we want this to stand out, and we're going to make this actually more challenging. We're going to come back over into the text area, and I'm going to click the bold button. And when I do that, now everything is bold, and you notice now we have the E crossing the L, the R crossing the E crossing the D. Everything is now jammed together. And we want to spread that out, but we want the bold letters. So now I'm going to show you a couple of tricks. So first of all, we're going to close the text feature. We're done typing our text, so simply click the close button. And while the text is highlighted, we're going to come over and click this little white button under transform objects. Looks like a bullseye kind of target crosshair rectangles that you would find through a scope. Click that, and we're simply going to come up to the top 3 buttons and click the middle one, and what that'll do is that will center whatever you have highlighted. Right now we have the text highlighted. You can tell because it's purple. So that is what's going to be centered on the project. I click it, and now the old red barn is where we play is centered. Now you remember in our sign over here we have the old red barn and where we play separated. So we got to do a couple things here. Number one is we got to fix all these areas where the text is crossing over, and we have to separate them. Right now they are considered a single text field. I just use the term to refer to these two lines as a single text vector, and that was not the correct way of saying it. Basically, it's a grouped set of vectors right now. You can't split the upper line and lower line to fall on a curve. We actually have to physically have them separated from each other. So I'll show you how to do that in a little while. Right now, I'm going to teach you tips and tricks on how to get the lettering separated, like so the R and the E don't cross over each other, and get the words separated. So you're going to learn some pretty cool stuff and how exactly that works. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just get things separated. There's two things we're going to do. We're going to start spreading these letters apart, and we're going to spread the words apart a little bit. And we may actually have to change the size of the letters later on because they may not fit. So we might have to make them a little smaller. So first, let's play with the letters to fix this crossing over that's going on. And so this is one of the tools that you will want to use quite a bit. If we go into the Create Vectors area, right up in here, and come down to where the text is, the third icon over, you see a little cursor arrow, and I think it says ABC. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, it says ABC just below it in really small letters. We're going to click that. Now, we have activated something, but we have no menu showing up here. That doesn't matter, but we have activated something. When you come over into the drawing area, you notice on my cursor now, there's this little T below the arrow. And what that means is that we are now editing the text spacing, that we are in a text mode. Now, here's the trick. I want you to look at my cursor, and I'm going to move it down between the letters. And you notice that now it just changed, and we have a few things on here. We have on the left the letter V, on the right the letter A, and in between are two arrows pointing inwards. And then underneath is a plus, which is the actual center of our cursor location right now. And there's a little line. And that line is indicating like a dimension line. So the two arrows facing inward are telling you something. They're telling you that the adjustment we're about to make is going to move letters closer. So what we're looking at in this little icon is we have the letter V and the letter A, and these two arrows are saying when we start clicking our mouse button, we're going to bring them closer together. That's what those two arrows mean. So right now I'm in between the E and the R. So the E in O and the R on red. And we have the arrows pointing inwards, and I'm going to click my left mouse button. And watch what happens with the E and the R. We're going to zoom up. There we go. I click it, and you notice that they're just nudging together just a little bit. Now, I want them to go apart. Let's say we want to spread them out, because that's what we're going to need to do over here. Now, I'm going to press the Shift button, and I want you to watch the arrows between the V and the A. And you notice now I'm holding the Shift button, and the arrows are now pointing outwards. And what that means is now we're going to spread those letters apart. And so when I start clicking my left mouse button, the E and the R are spreading apart. Now what it's actually doing is it's basically from this point right here, it's starting to spread the entire red barn away from the O. So I'm going to just press again right here in the middle, and I'm going to click it, and you see red barn is moving, the whole set of letters, and on the left, the O is moving. So I've spread them apart a little far at the moment, so I'm letting go of the Shift button, and the arrows are now pointing inward again. I hold the Shift button down, they point out, I let it go, they're pointing in. And that's telling you the direction that they are going to spread. Okay, so that's one thing to know about. Now, let's just say we want these to spread apart a fair distance. So right now, let's just say we actually do want to spread the R and the E. So right now, I'm putting my cursor between the R and the E. And I'm going to hold the shift button down, and when I do, there's two little arrows, they point outward, and I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to click it, and you can see the R and the E are moving out. And they're just nudging out, and it's taken 3 clicks to separate them. So I want to show you something a little different. So there's 2 things. I want to back up for a minute to where we were. So there's 2 things I can do. I can either let the arrows point inwards and click 3 times, or I can use Control Z, hold the control button down, and click Z 3 times. And what that means is we are undoing the last action we took. That's what Control Z is. If you want to redo a last action that you just took away, you press Control and hold it. Control and press Y, and that will take you back forward to an action that you had done that you just undid, if that makes any sense. Okay, so we're putting it back to where we were. So now what I want to do is I just want to make this jump apart. I don't want to click a whole bunch of times. I just want it to jump apart. So we're going to hold the control button down, and let's just say just right now the arrows are pointing inward. And you know right now they just, excuse me, as I nudge it, I'm slowly bringing it in. If I hold the control button down, it's going to come in a huge distance. And you see there's a difference. I'm holding control button down. Now I'm not holding it down, and it's just nudging. If I hold the control button down, it jumps. So the control button gives you a bigger jump, basically, is what we're doing here. Now, I want to spread them back apart, and I want to jump it back apart because I just moved the E and the R so close together. So we're going to hit Shift to move them apart, but now it's those little small bumps. So the way we do this is hold the Shift button down and hold the control button down, and now we're going to get big jumps to spread it apart. So the thing to remember, when you want to do tiny tweaks, all you have to do is click your mouse button, and that will bring it inward. If you want to take it outward, you hold the Shift button and click your mouse button, and that'll tweak it outward. And if you want big jumps, you hold the control button down, and if you're not holding the Shift button down, then it'll make big jumps inward. If you hold the control and the Shift button down at the same time, it'll make big jumps outward. So make sure you give that a try, and you'll see how that works. So I'm going to do the same thing. Now I'm going to sit between the R and the E, hold the Shift button down because I want the letters to spread apart, and the control because I want them to spread apart in a big jump, and I click and they immediately jumped way apart. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the E and the D. And that looks pretty good, although it looks like this spacing and this spacing are too much. So I want this E and the D to come back together a little bit. So I'm simply going to hover right in the middle without holding any buttons down. The arrows are pointing in together. That means I'm going to be just nudging it in just a little bit. And I'm happy with that. Now the R, E, D are pretty well spaced. And now we're going to fix the other ones. We have to get a little separation here. So I'm going to hold Shift down. And let's take a look. There we go. And I'm going to hold Shift down here so the arrows are pointing outwards. I'm going to hold the control so it jumps, and that's what I'm going to go with. And same with the R and the N, Shift and control, and everything's jumping. You'll have to practice this a few times to really get the feel for how this is working. At this point, I think you got an idea of how to get your letters spacing proper and the words. It's all the same technique. We can do the same thing with the lines, the 2 different lines, which I will show you in just a little bit. And then I'm going to teach you how to break the lines apart so we can get them on the arc above and the arc down below. And then I'll get into the freehand drawing and train you on that. So before I get to the rest of this, we're going to just speed up the video to finalize all the spacing of these letters. If you feel like you're getting something out of this video, then if you would, please take a minute, give me a thumbs up. And if you want to learn this kind of stuff from this channel, we got a lot of, for beginners, Vectric videos and CNC router videos. You might want to subscribe and check out some of the other videos that I've created for you. And a comment down below would always help. Ask the question, what kind of videos would you like me to make to help you become a better creator? So I look forward to your comments. Okay, we're going to speed this up so I can get all these adjustments done, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. I hope you're getting something out of this. And I think we have it. Yep. So we're good with this. Okay, so what we're just going to rehash. What we did was come over into Create Vectors. The third row down, third icon in, you hover over it, and it says Edit Text Spacing and Curve. Now, we've got this adjusted now. And now I want to get these lines separated. Right? I want to create this, the old red barn on top and where we play on the bottom, and I want them on an arc. But right now, the old red barn is where we play, were created in one text function. So there, when I click it, everything highlights, which means it's all part of an entire group. I can't try to grab this. Oops, we are still in the text function. Okay, so we are still in this function because you see on the cursor the little T, and we need to turn that off. And so the way we do it, simply press the escape button on your keyboard, and that turns it off. Okay, so I've got my hourglass running on my cursor. My computer's doing lots of thinking in the background these days, so I'm not sure what's going on. So you can ignore that. I'm going to click the red barn. We need to separate them, one for the top and one for the bottom, but we can't right now because they're considered one item. When I click anywhere on any one of the letters, everything highlights, which means it's all one chunk. We have to get them separated. So we're going to literally break the two lines, but I want to show you something else that I forgot to show you before about this text spacing. We're going to go back into that function, Edit Text Spacing. I'm going to click that, and you know that now we can adjust the letter spacing, but we can also adjust the line spacing between the lines, the old red barn, and it's where we play. By doing the same thing, hover in between them, and now you'll notice that our cursor on the top says line, which is the first line, old red barn, and at the bottom says line, which is the second line. It's where we play. And then it has the plus to the left, which means that is the center of our cursor. And it's got the little up and down line, a dimension line. It's basically telling us we are working up and down now. And the arrows are pointing inwards. So what this is telling us is when we start clicking our mouse in this mode, we're going to start bringing the lines together. So watch this. I'm going to click the mouse while it's there with the arrows pointing inwards together, and you'll see it, the bottom line is starting to move towards the top line. And I can literally keep bringing this thing up until, it's getting so tight that we are now crossing into the spacing between these two letters there. So we can just keep doing this. Now, for the same thing, if I want to make them go apart, I press the Shift button, and you notice now that the arrows are pointing outward, and now we'll get them moving away. And again, you can hold the Control button down, and it'll jump a big distance. So that's how you can get these two lines adjusted the same way with the lettering. Okay, so we're done with that. And you understand this feature now. Now I'm going to hit the escape to get out of this mode. So it says line, line. I hit escape, and we are out. And now what I want to do is I want to separate these two lines, the first line and the second line. So while they're highlighted, selected, we're going to right-click our mouse, and a menu is going to open up. And right down at the middle, it says Break Text Blocks into Line, or text block. So the whole thing is considered a block, and we're going to break it into lines. So when I click this, before I click that, I just want to show you, I'm going to click this twice, and we get these beads popping up, and we got a dot in the middle. I'm going to come over that dot, and I'm going to hold my left mouse button down, and now I can move everything around, and the whole thing moves. All the letters, both lines. So now I'm going to right-click. That menu opens up. Now, when I right-click, you don't have to right-click with these dots showing up. You only have to have it selected. So I'm going to select it, and I can be anywhere on the screen while that's selected, and I can right-click. That menu opens up. We come down to break text into block into lines, click it, and now when I click the bottom line, hit the escape. There we go, and there. Okay, so I click the bottom line, and now you see only the bottom line is highlighted. So now I can use my arrow keys on the keyboard. So I'm going to press the down arrow key, and that moves down. I can press the right one, I can press the left one, and I can press the up one, and it's only moving that entire line. And if I select the top line, and it's also independent from the other one, I can move it around as I want by hitting the arrow keys. I'm talking about the arrow keys. That's the cursor keys on your keyboard. There's 4 of them. They all have an arrow, and each one is pointing in the 4 different directions. When you have something selected on your screen and you press one of those arrow keys, it's going to nudge in the direction of that arrow, which makes it really nice so you can fine-tune where you want things positioned. The other little tip about this is the closer you are zoomed into a certain area, let's just say we zoom way into the R of red, yet we have the old red barn, the whole thing selected, and we start using the up arrow key, the whole sentence is just going to nudge up just a tiny, tiny bit. If you zoom way out, it's going to nudge up a whole bunch. So basically, that movement with the arrow keys, the scale of the movement is dependent on how close or how far away that drawing is to you. So play with your arrow key in your drawing with something selected, and you'll understand what I mean. It's a very, very handy tool that you will use all the time. Or I can select it again and move it around that way. With the beads, I can grab the little outer corner beads. You see a little rotation feature show up there. I can grab that and rotate it up like that independently. Now I'm going to press Control-Z to undo that. The inside beads I can adjust, so the ones that are in the middle across the horizontal, when I grab that, it'll shrink the lettering down. I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo that. If I grab that and hold the Shift button down, it will shrink it down based on the center right here. So you see it just shrunk down to the center. I'm going to hit Control-Z, and finally, with the little white buttons right there, the ones in the 4 corners, I can grab those, and I can change the size of my text that way. Control-Z, and if I hold the Shift button down, I can change the size of the text based on center. Control-Z to undo that. I'm not holding Shift button down, and now it changes it based on the lower left corner because I grabbed it on the upper right corner. Hit Control-Z. So there we are. All right, so we have finished this first section of the video where I've taught you about spacing your text. But we're going to move on, and we're going to have some fun, and we're going to create a sign out of this old red barn. I'm going to teach you how to get that text on an arc, and I'll teach you how to draw the arc, and then we'll draw a barn in there and we'll frame out the sign, and then we'll end the video. If this video is helpful, you're gaining something out of it, please, right below this video is a thumbs up button. If you just take a second to hit that, I would appreciate that. Even more so, a comment. If you feel like this video has been helpful or I missed something, please comment down below. Let me know so I know how to make better videos for you. And of course, if you want more of this stuff, subscribe so you can catch the next training video that I put out. And there's a ton of videos on this channel. Sign up to the CNC Entrepreneurs Facebook group. We got, what, 30,000 people in that group. People helping each other who are starting CNC businesses and just learning how to do this. And lastly, you want to get the CNC router bit app that's been put out by IDC Woodcraft. All your feeds and speeds are right at your fingertips on your phone. You can use them while you're doing your setup. Links for everything are down below in the description of this video. All right, remember, like and a comment and get the app and join CNC Entrepreneurs Facebook group. And let's move on with the projects that we're working on. Teach you some more stuff. Now, we're going to put this text on an arc. And we're going to start to create our sign. So the first thing I want to do is just get these things centered up. I'm going to grab them both, and we're going to go back to this align selected objects. I'm going to select that, and while both of these are highlighted, what the Vectric software is going to do is going to find the center of both of these lines, and it'll position the center of these lines, which is approximately right here. Let's get in closer, which is approximately right here. And it'll center that on our project. So I'm going to click the center the project, click it, and it moved all the lettering. So that's what we want. So now we're going to create this arc that we want this to be on. And so I'm going to use the arc feature, and that's under create vectors, the second line, the second row down, and it's the second item in, and it says draw arc. I select that, and I'm simply going to somewhere select right along the edge of the project. You see my cursor right now has a big arc on it. And then when I come over to the edge of the project, it turns into a target. And that means it has grabbed the edge of the project. And the way to get that to do that, if your software is not doing that right now, is you have to turn the snap feature on. So the snap feature will enable the software to say, oh, there's a line there. I'm going to draw my line right from that point. So the snap feature, if you come up to the items along the top, the first two icons, you want to check them so that they have little boxes around them just like that. You see they're kind of a bluish color, shaded inside, whereas some of the other ones don't have it. If I click that, one of these, you see that box goes away. That means the snap feature is turned off. So right now both of these are turned off, and I come back to the drawing, and it'll still give me that target, but it's not going to give me other snap functions. So it will grab the edge of this material here, but we want to have that turned on. So we're going to turn that back on, and I'm going to select right here, just randomly right along the edge. And you can see now the first part of my arc has been grabbed on the edge of the material. And I'm going to come across, and I'm going to come across horizontally. And while we're horizontal, you can see the line kind of jumps into the horizontal position. And if you watch my cursor as I move down near the horizontal, it actually changes into like an angle thing. And what it's telling me is it has now grabbed the horizontal axis, or a 0 degrees angle. And that's what I want. So I'm going to come all the way over to the edge, and I'm going to, you see my cursor turn into that target again. That means it's grabbed the other edge, and so that's what I want. I'm going to click. And now we have an arc forming. So what I want to do is just create a gentle arc that the old red barn will sit on. So I'm just going to come up like that, and now we have it. And we are done with the arc feature. Now, I'm not going to dive into the arc feature too much, but I just want you to know that the way this worked, I clicked one point, then I clicked the other point, and then I just created the arc the way I wanted to, is because I had through 3 points selected. And that's 3 points on the arc. Had we had the second one selected, it would be referring to the center point of the arc. And when I say center point of the arc is part of a circle, and there is a center of a circle, which would be below the project area. We're not working with that feature today. All right, I'm going to click close because I have my arc. And now you see the arc is created, but I want the lower arc as well. We're going to go over to the other drawing real quick, and you see where we play is a reverse arc. So we're going to use the mirror function to create the reverse arc. So while the arc is selected, I'm going to come to transform objects, And we're going to look for the mirror function, which is the fourth icon in this version. It says mirror selected objects. So I'm going to click that and a menu opens up. And you notice that the arc is now, it has the dots around it that enable us to manipulate it. But all I want to do is mirror it so it's a reverse arc. And we're going to mirror it on, we want to mirror it based on vertical. What we want to do is, first of all, our settings is we want to do this about the job center. You want this checked. And what that means is this is a 24-inch tall project, so it's going to reference 12 inches in, which is the center line of the project. The next one we want to have checked is create a mirrored copy. In other words, when we mirror this, it's going to make a copy and it's going to keep the original. If this is not checked, it'll eliminate the original and create a new one that is a mirror. Okay, so we're going to click, let's see, on the horizontal, so it'd be on the horizon. I'm going to click that, and that is not it. It just created another mirrored object right here. What it did is split it down the middle here. And this, basically it's the arc over an arc, and it just created a mirrored copy of it, which didn't work. So we're going to hit Control Z and do it on the vertical. And there we go. So it's on the vertical, up and down, right? So we are good to go. We have that. All right, let's have some fun. Let's get this positioned. I'm going to select the old red barn, and I'm simply going to move it above the arc. And it's where we play. I'll move it below the arc. Now we're going to put it on the arc. We're actually going to take the old red barn, and it's going to sit along that arc. So we select old red barn, and then we come over to create vectors, and in the text line of the thing, we're going to go to the very last one, which is text on a curve. Select that, and now you see everything is grayed out. We don't want it to be grayed out. We want these to be highlighted so we can move the text. So that means we need to get this reference line selected as well. So the software knows what we're referencing to when we're trying to put this text on an arc. So you have to hold the Shift button down and select that circle. And you noticed immediately the text jumped right to the circle. And that's because of the settings that I have. So we're going to come over here. I'm not going to dive too much into this arc command because there's a lot to it. But basically, I have the item checked above the curve. And over here, it's in the middle. So the text is in the middle of the curve. If I went to left, it'll shift the text to the left of the curve. If I went to right, it would shift it to the right of the curve. If I went to the middle, it'll bring it back. And then we have on the line, and we have below the line. So if I say on curve, you see the text moves down. The text moves down below the curve. I click below the curve. Go above the line. So now we've got that selected. Now while we're in this function, we're simply going to select the other text. And I'm going to hold the Shift button down, and I'm going to select the line. And now it's there, but it's above the line. And I want it below the line. So I am going to come over and just simply select below the line. And now move that text down. We are done putting on an arc. I'm going to select Close. Now I feel like the letter spacing is pretty far apart based on what I created here. But we can bring it in a little while, because we're going to create the barn now. Well, we are now going to move on to a brand new tool in the Vectric software in the design side. It is the Freehand drawing tool. It's been introduced into the Vectric software as of version 11.5. So it will not be in any of the previous versions, but it will be in there from now on. That's in the Vcarve, Cut2d, and the Aspire version. So we're going to walk through that, and you're going to see how that works. So I'm going to draw up a barn for this sign. It's a little tricky to get a feel for it at first, but it's kind of cool. And then we'll go on to moving the text around and finishing up this sign. I hope you're learning some stuff. You've been around for a little while now, about 40 minutes. So thank you for hanging around. And if you are hanging around still, then put down in the comments, say, Garrett, I'm still here. And a thumbs up if you feel like you're getting something out of this. And remember, the comments down, the description down below this video has information for you. The CNC Router Bit app that's been introduced that has all your feeds and speeds right on your phone. Join the CNC Entrepreneurs Facebook group, and there's other links down below as well. All right, let's get on to this part of the Vectric freehand drawing. It's actually kind of a cool new tool that they've added to it. Now we're going to draw a picture using the freehand feature in the software. But we need something to reference our freehand to. So I'm going to bring in a picture of the old red barn that's going to enable us to draw over it so that it looks like the barn in the practice project that I did. So we're going to switch back over to here. And I'm going to import a vector, which is I'm going to import an image that I just did a snapshot off of Google with. So I come up to the very top line where it says File Operations, the very last icon here with that little thing hanging out of it. Select that, and that's going to open up my file directory, and we're going to find the barn, and there it is. Select that, and then click OK, and the barn comes in. Now, it's a little tiny thing. I want to make it bigger, so we're simply going to click on the image. This is a picture. So you can import any picture as long as the Vectric software recognizes the format. I'm going to show you a little cheat too of how you can get around that when it doesn't recognize the format if you have a PC. And I'll show that to you in just a moment. First of all, we're going to change the size of this by simply clicking on it again. Right now you can see the purple line. That means it's selected. I'm going to select it again. Now all these little buttons pop up. I'm going to hold the shift button down because I want to expand it based on the center of the project there. So by holding the shift button down, it'll expand it from the center. So shift button is being held, and I come into the little corner bubble, any of the four corners, and I just expand that image. And there we go. Now we've got it to the size that we want. And now we're going to freehand over it using this cool new tool of freehand that is available in the Vectric software version 11.5 and higher. Up in the Create Vectors area, in the second row down, fourth icon in, it says Freehand Drawing. We'll select that, and we open up a menu that's got a couple of sliders here, a checkbox, another slider, and then some instructions down below. So right now everything is grayed out, and it's grayed out because no image is selected. We actually have to select the image over here. So I'm going to click over it and nothing happens. So I'm going to close this box, select the image, and then go back to freehand. And now we're not grayed out. So we have a few things going on here. One is the smoothness of the line, and the other one is the stability. And then we have end the vector at the cursor, and then we have fade bitmap. Now the reason we have fade bitmap is because as we're going to be drawing over this, if it's too dark, we can't see the line that we're drawing. For example, right now you can almost not see the cursor. And if I slide the fader all the way to the left, now if I try to draw in there, I'll never see the line. So what we want to do is we want to fade that down so we can see what we're drawing. So I'm going to fade it pretty far down. There, so we can barely see it. Now while we're in this feature, you see my cursor is a little plus sign. And even with the snap features turned on right now, it simply doesn't matter as far as I know. But I do know that that point where the cursor is at right now is going to be the start of our freehand. And what you do is you hold your left mouse button down, and you can just draw all you want. Now you see there's this little circle that's been created. And that means that that is the reference where the line will end. So I'm just kind of just rolling my mouse around and moving it while I'm holding that button down. And I want you to see that line has literally ended right in the middle of that circle. And so when I let the cursor go, it actually came up all the way to the cursor, which I didn't expect. I thought it was going to stop at the line. What that circle is telling me is it is following, where it's tracing is based off the center of the circle. So if I come up and I expand the smoothness, no, it is the stability. Let's bring that up, and I start, the circle is a little bit bigger. Now, if I turn stability down all the way, and now I hold, there's almost no circle whatsoever. And what's happening is it's basically following my cursor to a T. So it doesn't matter where my cursor is, it's just following the cursor. But if I bring that smoothness up, now it gives me a little bit more smooth line. It just smooths things out. I can't really explain that too much. Now the smoothness depends, sets up the amount of nodes. Now I just slid it all the way the other way. So let's see what happens when I try to kind of retrace that line. So I'm just coming around the outside, and we're going to check out the difference. Now I'm going to hit the escape button to get out of this feature, and we have this inner one. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to hit N for node. And so we have a bunch of smooth nodes here. Now I'm going to select the outer one, and we have less nodes there. So it's a much smoother curve. And that's what smoothing does. It does not put in as many nodes. And so that's just something to think about to have a nice smooth line drawing. So we're going to escape from that, and I'm going to select all of these and hit the delete button to get rid of them. So we worked a little bit with the drawing feature so you understand some of the things in it. It takes a little bit to really get the hang of it. Even I am not perfect with it yet, but at least you understand some of the tools that are there. So now you're going to learn a little bit more about it as we go into drawing this barn. So let's have some fun drawing up a cool little picture on our project. And now we're going to draw over the barn. So I have to select the image again, and then go back into freehand drawing. And now I have to adjust the fading again so it's down. And my smoothness is all the way up, and I don't want the smoothness to be up because I've got some corners here I want to capture. But there is a little trick that we can work with. So I am going to leave the smoothness up, but I just don't want everything to be smooth, because if I try to trace right here and come around, it's going to leave a big broad curve. We'll just do that. I'm just going to come down here, draw a line up, and it's basing the line off the center of the circle. And then I come over here and I try to capture that corner, and you can see it's too smooth. It doesn't look good. So I'm going to Control Z. And we're going to turn the smoothness down. No, I got to turn the stability down. And I'm going to try this again. Bring it up. And I'm going to stop, and I'm going to turn, and we still get that. So we got to get the smoothness out of there. We're going to bring it all the way down. Control Z, and come up again. And now I can take that sharp turn, and it's a bit better. But we've got an even better trick that we can work with. I'm going to hit Control Z. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the roof line. So we're going to start over here, and I'm going to just hold that down. I'm going to come down to a corner. Now you notice I don't have a perfectly straight line. I don't really care. It's still going to look like a barn. And I stopped the line there. But I want this to be one continuous line when we actually carve it out. So now what we're going to do is press the Control button down while we're hovering over the end. And it doesn't matter, we can hold it down anywhere. And then when I come over to the end point of that line, that target comes up. And what that means is it's going to connect itself to that line, and it'll continue on as if it's one line. And then I start drawing. And then I come over here, and I want to capture the corner of the roof, so I'm going to let the mouse go. I'm still holding the Control button down so that I can capture that corner again. And now we come straight down. You see the roof has got a nice corner there. Now we can doctor this up all we want to straighten up these lines, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go like that, and I keep letting go of the mouse, and then I grab that line again, and I just simply come on down and create these lines. Now over here I can let go of the control button, so I don't need to connect now. I'm simply going to come up here and draw a line down like that. And you see I got a lot of wobbliness going on here. That's part of the freehand feature. If you want to clean some of that up, you'll have to edit nodes. I've got a video for node editing, and I'll link that down below. Now I'm simply going to draw this line coming out there. I'm drawing this line off the roof line coming out there, just like that. And then we have the fence, so I'm going to draw the fence and fence and fence post, fence post. All I'm doing is I'm just drawing. Literally just drawing like you're drawing with a pencil. It's just a little bit different feel because we're doing it with a mouse. So it doesn't come out perfect, but as I say, when we're doing images, when we're doing CNC projects, people don't see the imperfections, they see the messages. Okay, so now we got another line here for the silo. There, and coming down. And then we got this roof line here. So we're just going to come up and over. Just like that. And then we got the bush. And if I need to change some settings, I will. So you see this comes down to a corner, and I do that. You see how that didn't actually grab all the way down where the cursor was? So I'm going to do it again. See where the cursor is? And the line is a bit above the cursor where it's ending at. And I want to have a sharp corner there, but when I come across, it doesn't necessarily create a sharp corner, but it is pretty fine. This is part of the freehand drawing. It's just, you just got to work with it. Then we're going to do this fence. Ooh, I don't like that. Hit Control Z and do that again. And then do that one. We'll do that one. Just kind of keep with the tone of the image. And there we are. But we're missing barn doors. This image did not have barn doors. So I'm just going to create a barn door real quick. So I made one line. We're going to hold Control down so it grabs that. It's going to come across and do the same thing like that. And then where the door splits, then we'll have our cross pieces in there. Oops, Control Z. We'll put a cross piece there. We'll put a cross piece there. One here and one here. And there is our barn. We are done with that. Close that. You can fiddle around with that a little bit all you want. Now we want the bitmap to turn off because it's in our way. We want to see what our image looks like. So come up to layers, this blue bar up at the top where it says layer 1, select that, and you see bitmap layer and layer 1. Next to bitmap layer, there's a light bulb to the left, a yellow light bulb. That means the light bulb is turned on. We want to turn it off. You do that simply by clicking the light bulb, and that turns the image off. And so now it looks like this is okay, but we can see some of the errors of our ways, like the top of the silo is a little too goofy for even for freehand, and the roof of the barn looks incomplete. I feel like there needs to be something right here to show the soffit area. So I'm going to simply, I don't even need to get the layer back on, so I'm going to click right in here. Again, on my mouse, on my cursor, you see my hourglass running. My computer is doing a lot of thinking in the background, so it doesn't mean anything to you as I'm teaching you. So what we want to do is just draw another line right up here to indicate the soffit. So I'm just going to get the freehand button again, click it, and simply come near that corner and kind of follow up on that line. And now we have our soffit looking thing, and it looks okay. I'm going to escape. And we're going to center the top of the silo. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to use my cursor buttons just to bring it over a little bit. And I'll do the same thing with this part right there. Again, you play with it all you want. You can tweak it. It looks a little funny right here. So I'll select that, hit N for node. And I see I have to move a node over just a little bit. So I simply click on the node and drag it over. Now it looks even worse. So I want to get rid of this node to straighten out this line. So I'm going to hover over it and hit the D button, the letter D, and it gets rid of that. And now let's straighten that line out. I'm going to hit escape to get out of node mode.
And there we go. So we have the old red barn. So this needs to be a little bit closer to the barn itself, or we need to enlarge the barn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge the barn a bit. So I'm going to grab the whole barn by simply creating a window that touches every line from the right side to the left lower corner. And then I'm going to click on the barn again. I'm going to hold the control button down, the shift button down. No, yeah, shift. And I am going to expand that a little bit so it kind of gets more to scale of our project.
And there we are. We have done all the core work in our project, and now it's time to actually finish it up with the outer boundary of the sign. And I'm going to teach you some cool little tricks to make interesting shapes of your sign, and we'll have our finished project ready to carve on a CNC router. You've been here for a while. I got to admit, you are probably learning if you're still hanging around. If so, again, please right below, hit that little thumbs up button, and a comment always helps the videos rank. If you feel like it's helping you, then it'll help other people. Get the CNC Router Bit app, and also join CNC Entrepreneurs Facebook group. 30,000 of us there. People in law enforcement, military, have CNC businesses where you can learn from that stuff from them. And yeah, so there we go. All right, let's get back into the project. Let's get this kind of thing wrapped up. Comment, subscribe, and please give me that thumbs up.
And we're going to turn this into the old red barn sign with this rounded features on the top and the bottom, and the radius is on it. So we're going to come over. First thing I'm going to do is create a rectangle, and under create vectors, the top row, third icon in, is draw a rectangle. I'm going to select that, and basically I want this rectangle to be start right about down here. So I'm kind of eyeballing just below the lowest point of the word where, and then take the highest point up here. So we're going to just be outside the it's and where. I'm going to come up, and I'm not even being exact. See how I just kind of just went out there, and now that rectangle is formed. I'm going to close the rectangle feature. While that is selected, we are going to grab the centering or align objects, select that, and simply center up that rectangle. And now we're going to close that, and we now have a rectangle around here. Now this is where we want to get rid of the word it's. It's just taking up too much time, too much space, and it doesn't matter. The old red barn, where we play. So going to come back to the text thing, and I'm going to select it's where we play, and go back into the text feature. Select the T, and you can see we only have one line in there. So we're going to just go in there and cursor all the way to the beginning, and then start deleting until we get rid of it. And there we have it. I'm going to hit close, and now the old red barn where we play. So the reason we created the rectangle is because we want the vertical lines in the sign right here, and that's all we need it for. But how are we going to get the arc down here? This is the fun part. You're going to like this. So I come over here, and first of all, I can narrow up this rectangle a little bit now that we got some of that out. So I'm going to select the rectangle, hit it twice so we get these beads up. I'm going to hold the shift button down and select this bead, either on the right or on the left. Doesn't matter. We're going to hold the shift button down so the rectangle squeezes down equally on both sides. And now we're going to get this rounded part up here. The way we're going to do that is I am going to select the arc that is following old red barn. And we're going to come down, and I am going to, at the bottom, offset and layout, we're going to come to the second icon where it says array copy. Select that, and what I want to do is take this and I want to create an array. An array is where you can take an object and put it onto a pattern. But for now, we're just going to take this line and we're going to copy it up above old red barn. And so it's a row. The side to side is a row. If we're stacking things up, we have rows. If they're going up and down, that creates a column. We want this line to be up here, so it's literally going to be a second row or second object. So in this row feature, we want that to be 2. So we have a second one, and in column it's just 1 because we're just staying with 1 column. And I want this to go up. Our lettering is, I don't know how tall our letters are, because I want to be about, we'll say a ½ inch above the lettering. So we're going to see how tall our letters are. I'm going to close the array feature real quick, select all, and go into the text feature, and then down in there it says how big it is, 1.15 inches tall. So I'm going to close that, select that line again, and I'm going to make it 1.5 inches above where it's at right now. So I select array, and since it's going up and down, that's going up in Y, so I want to put in the Y 1.5 and click copy. And now we've created a second line above the old red barn. And then same thing for where we play. We want it to be 1.5 inches below, or in the negative direction. So I'm going to simply select the arc where we play, and I'm going to change the Y value to -1.5 and click copy. And now we've created that. And that means now we have created most of our sign. And there's something I don't like here. I actually want these to be further up than what they are. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click Control Z twice. And what that'll do is undo what we did down here, and it'll undo what we did up here. It just does our moves as we did them. So Control Z and Control Z, those lines are gone, and it has reselected this one. So that's selected. We're going to go up 2 inches instead of 1.5 because I want to get this radius in here, and I didn't have enough room. So that's why I did that. So I'm going to select the offset feature again, click that, and right now we're already set up here, 2 rows, 1 column, and it says -1.5. So we want to move down. Instead of just changing that number, we're going to select the bottom one, copy, oops, Control Z, I want that to be -2. It doesn't matter, we can select top or bottom, we just have to say the direction. So we're going to go -2 and click copy, click the top one, and that'll be +2. So just type in 2 and go like that, close, and now I feel better. Now we'll be able to create a radius in there. But we got to get rid of all this other noise. And I feel like something needs to move a little bit on this. I feel like Old Red Barn needs to come a little closer. So what I want to do is grab all these lines right there. What I did is I'm going to grab this arc, and the lettering, and move them down. So I have just simply clicked right in this spot here and held my mouse button, touched that arc, touched the text, and touched that arc going to the left, and that'll highlight everything. And I'm going to use my cursor keys to bump it down closer to the silo. And now I feel like it's a little bit better. And I'll hit the escape button, and now we get very easy. This is fun. We're going to get the shape of our sign. So we're going to get the scissors out right over here under Edit Objects, select that, and we're going to come up to this corner here, and I'm going to trim. I just touched it, and now we got rid of that top corner. And each side of the arc outside the rectangle, we're going to do the same thing down at the bottom. We're going to trim. We got to trim this corner, and you see we got to trim this right there, and then we got to trim that. And now I'm going to hit escape, and now we want to get that the radiuses on our sign. So we're going to come down to Edit Objects, third icon down, third row down, the first icon, it says Fillet. Select that, select the first bullet right there, and create your radius. So we have a 1-inch radius, and simply hover over a corner and click. And now we've rounded out that corner. Do it to that corner, and that corner. Now, let's say this radius isn't big enough for what we want. So what we can do is simply hover back over that radius and click it again. It'll undo what we just did. Now you see what just happened there? So we're going to hit Control Z, and I'm going to undo all these by hitting Control Z. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I want my radius to be 1.5. So I type in 1.5 there, and we do it again. Now we click over that. Oh, much better, much better. We've got that, and come in here. I'm going to simply, I have to close this, and then we're going to delete these two lines. Delete, and there is our sign, Old Red Barn.
Remember, everything I talked about in this video is linked down in the description. The CNC Router Bit app, CNC Entrepreneurs Facebook group, some of the other things I talked about. Like, subscribe, comment. I would really appreciate that. And I hope you have a good day, better tomorrow, and happy CNCing. idcwoodcraft.com